Welcome back to the Iron King Inc. YouTube channel, and we are back to our regularly scheduled programming. Today, we're gonna be assembling a D10T final drive. That is Caterpillar's second largest dozer. Now, we've already disassembled this final drive. We have installed new bearings, put new pins in it, cleaned everything, and there is a link in the description of a video that I did a couple years ago completely disassembling a Cat D10T final drive, so you know how that works. So we have all of our carriers assembled. So this is our little carrier right here, and we have our big carrier right here. They have all of the gears in them, the pins are installed, and the bearings are installed as well. We have our main sprocket hub and our spindle assembly. Now we still need to install our duocone seal, and we need to install our wheel bearing. So we have the bottom of the wheel bearing installed on that spindle, but we still need to install the rest of the wheel bearing inside of the hub here. And then we need to lay the hub with the duocone seal on top of the spindle very carefully in order to not screw it up. I'm gonna show you guys in the video. It's gonna be awesome. But let's go ahead and get on with it. So the first part that we're gonna assemble is going to be our sprocket hub onto our spindle here. And that's gonna require us to lift this up, install our new duocone seal, which I'll show you guys that. It's in a brand new box, and we have the tool to install it because it takes a specialty tool. We're gonna take the sprocket hub and place it on top of the spindle, and then install our wheel bearing inside of the sprocket hub, and that's going to set this together. So we've already gone ahead and installed all of our gears, our pins, and our bearings just to save some time. And like I said, I do have a link in the description of this video that shows a previous video that we did completely disassembling one of these final drives, so you can check that out in the link in the description. So these gears all installed, set correctly, and you can usually tell when D10 final drive gears or any high drive final drive gears are assembled correctly is they spin nice and easily. So this right here is our duocone seal. So it's a metal sealing surface seal with a rubber O-ring around it that basically lets the two pieces of metal float up and down, side to side, but the sealing metal surfaces stay together. I'm gonna cut this apart so we can take a closer look at it. But the inside of this is a machined sealing surface. So it's a metal on metal sealing surface. What you're seeing there is oil or Cosmo, like anti-rust. So that's not dirt or anything like that. So you have this rubber O-ring that's gonna sit in the lip of your final drive, and these two metal pieces are gonna come together. You're gonna have a metal on metal seal. They're gonna come together, and those are gonna seal. So you need to make sure that there is no dirt or debris when you assemble these. We also have a special tool. It's called a duocone installer. We're gonna be using that tool to install it into our sprocket hub and into our spindle. So stay tuned for that. I'm gonna close this back up here and put this back in this box for now. Normally I would leave these in the packaging until we're ready to use, but for the purposes of the video, might as well take this out, take a closer look at this. And we're gonna be using it today anyway, so I'm not too worried about it. So I'm gonna close this back up, and we'll get back to that later. So we have our main wheel bearing in the oven. This is the perfect way to heat up bearings. Guys, do not use a torch. It puts uneven heat on the bearing surface and can actually warp it or change the metallurgy of the bearing. Go to your local dump, get yourself an old oven that's been thrown away, make sure the heating elements work, and that's the perfect way to heat up a bearing. You want it about 350 degrees. It's been in there for about 20 minutes. It's right at about 280 degrees. So we're gonna let that sit there for about another 20 minutes. In the meantime, while that thing's heating up, we're gonna get these duocones set on the spindle here. We're gonna set the other duocone in the sprocket hub, and then we're gonna mate the two together. We can do this because the sprocket hub can slide over this. Then we can install our other wheel bearing half that is a heated press interference fit onto the spindle. So this is the Caterpillar tool. It's a duocone installer. Here's the Caterpillar part number for it. 1 Union 5934. So I have our duocone installer here. You can see it's got this little groove. And where it's gonna go is right around the metal part of the seal. It's gonna clamp into here, just like this. We're gonna clamp this together. Make sure we're in. Trying not to touch that metal surface with my gloves, which we will clean it later. This is gonna clamp together and lock in. So now our duocone is locked and we have our O-ring protruding out. What I'm gonna do is I like to put brake clean on this. So I'm gonna brake clean around here, and that's gonna make that rubber surface pretty slick, and it should make it easier for us to push in this duocone seal into the spindle. Lube our surface up, go, and then we will go over the spindle, like so. And it is that easy. Gonna unhook here, unhook here, lift up, and our duocone is perfectly installed. It's just the same way for the sprocket hub, just upside down. But as you can see, now that tool has installed our O-ring absolutely perfectly. No reason to use a flat-bladed screwdriver. And these tools, I think they're $300 or $400 from Cat. Definitely worth it to purchase this.
Okay, we got the duocone installed in there. We're gonna pick up the hub with our 3-point chain here. You're gonna have 3 points of contact just all the way around the hub so it picks it up even. We can get underneath of it and push the seal in. That clamped on there.
Yep, good to go. Lube it up with some brake clean. This is always a little bit awkward because you got to do it from underneath. So we'll just lube this up. Try not to spray Robert in the face. Okay, you're gonna be good to go there. Upside down installation. Perfect. Good thing about this tool is you can tell when it's perfectly installed because it butts up flat against the sprocket hub, so you know that that O-ring is in there. Ready to go. And we're gonna brake clean all this stuff off here, that Cosmoline, whatever anti-rust that they have on there, we're gonna spray that with brake clean. And then I'm not gonna wipe that with a rag. I'm gonna take our air gun and I'm gonna blow all of that material off and just try and avoid putting contact between these two metal sealing surfaces. I got safety glasses on, you know. It's all for YouTube. So if I get sprayed in the face, it's actually the viewer's fault.
So I got this all cleaned off with brake clean. I don't know if you can see it, but there's no more debris. You can see the reflection. So blew it off with air. This is what it looks like before. It's kind of hard to see on camera. If you can kind of see right in there, there's just that little thin layer. So that's what we're cleaning off.
So our mating surfaces for our duocone seal have been cleaned perfectly. I don't see any debris, there's no scratches. We're ready to set our sprocket hub onto the spindle. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take the crane, move it over, and then we're gonna slowly lower it down onto the spindle. If you guys are ever assembling a duocone seal, always make sure do not put oil on this surface right here. You always want to install it dry unless the directions specifically say to put oil on it for some odd reason. But all the Cat ones that I deal with, you install this seal perfectly dry. Do not add any lubricant to this sealing surface right here. And done. Perfectly set bottom wheel bearing and duocone seal. I am 100% confident we're not gonna have any problems with that. So here comes the tricky part. That bearing in the heater should be ready to go. We're gonna take it, do hot potatoes, plop it in here, and then we're gonna put our plate down to set the bearing.
The bearing should be hot enough now, so we're just gonna go grab it out the oven, slide it on there, and then set the preload on it. If all goes to plan.
Hot potatoes. We gotta do this kind of quickly. Just like that, bam. Now we're gonna get our tool right here and our plate. I'm gonna set the camera down because we need to do this quickly. So we installed our plate. Our tool is underneath, in between the plate and the spindle. We got our bolts in it, and we torque these down. We're gonna let this sit for about 5 minutes, and then we're gonna unzip this, and then we can go ahead and install our reaction hub and our big hub gear. There we go, 2 hands. Now we can go ahead and install our reaction hub down here. So this is 2 separate pieces. This is what you call the reaction hub, and this is your main ring gear here. And 3 points of contact here, lift straight up, and that's gonna go into the final drive. And that big plate that we used right here, this guy bolts over here, and it basically holds the final drive together. Okay, coming down. Okay, going south. We're dealing with extreme weight here, so this is probably 200 pounds, just this piece right here, so that would really suck if we had it land on our feet. Just want to keep our distance, even though we do have rated picking chains and picking eyes. You always can't be too careful. Our ring gear here, it's got splines on it. This is what splines into your spindle. We're gonna go as slow and as controlled as possible. Just a little bit. Coming down. Now I'm gonna make sure we're splined correctly. And we are splining in. And you can tell if you, so that tool that we used earlier, you can always tell if your wheel bearing is set correctly if these 2 pieces are flush. So what'll happen is if you didn't get your wheel bearing set right, this will sit lower than your reaction hub. So right now I can just tell we're perfectly flat. That main plate, we're gonna bolt that thing directly down, but I can tell we have that wheel bearing set perfectly. So we're getting ready to bolt our reaction hub down, and you have these little pins. So these have been through our parts washer. Everything is clean, but you have these little pins, and they go into your reaction hub one by one. Always one hiding.
There we go.
Now we have the piece that we used to torque down our spindle and our wheel bearing, and we're going to set that directly in. I'll hand that over to you. Now we have a row of bolts here. We're just going to torque this down.
We have our assembly procedure here for the D10 final drive. Just gonna see what the torque spec on that.
Right there, you're on it.
I was already on it. So it says, put retainer, install bolts, 100 foot-pounds plus or minus 11. So
Even though we've done 50 of these, you always want to have the directions with you. So 100 foot-pounds plus or minus 11 foot-pounds for all these bolts, and we're going to put some Loctite on there to make sure that they don't loosen up. Now the directions do not say anything about using Loctite. We're going to use blue Loctite. It's easily removable, and it's more of a reassurance thing that these bolts are not going to come loose, especially at being torqued at 100 plus or minus 11 foot-pounds. So we have all of our bolts installed in here. What we're going to do is we're going to use an electric impact just to zip these down. We're not going to go super tight. It's just going to save us some time. Once we get them all zipped down, we're going to take our torque wrench and do the torque spec. Our torque spec is 100 plus or minus 11 pounds, so we just set it at 100 foot-pounds. You want a nice, smooth pull. Try not to jerk the torque wrench, like don't do this or you can get a false torque reading. So just a nice, smooth pull. If you don't get it on the first time, not a big deal. Just keep working around all these bolts. Again, you want a nice, smooth pull. How many bolts do we have? 12?
I think there's 19.
19? So that's a little bit off. And I'm not putting pressure here, I'm just using my hand to hold this steady. That way we do not accidentally round off any bolt heads. Coming up tight here, and nice smooth pull. I'm gonna move to the other side now, just to make sure we are torquing this down evenly. This is the perfect time to remind you guys, if you guys like this content, please subscribe to my channel. I'm trying to get to 100,000 subscribers, and I can only do that with you guys. So please, if you like what you're seeing here, please consider subscribing, or at least give me a thumbs up or something. And I do appreciate all of my subscribers that have joined and followed along.
So we're going around here, torquing every single one of these bolts. Once we get our first round done, we're gonna take our paint pen here, just make one mark through this to show that we have torqued it. We'll go down around a second time and mark it again and make an X. That way we have a confident torque on this.
So I've done my first round of torquing here. I have a paint pen, and I'm gonna go around one more time just to make sure that all these bolts are indeed tight. And marking these also allows us to make sure that if we ever have any problems, we knew that for sure we torqued all these bolts. So our reaction hub has been torqued down to the spindle. Good way to check to make sure you have a good torque. It's sort of primitive, but this should be pretty stiff to move, but it should be movable by hand. What I'm talking about is your main sprocket hub here. We should be able to spin this around. Yep. And we have good movement. It's not crazy stiff, but it is movable by hand. So we're all good here. We're gonna move on to installing our planetaries. So now that we have our reaction hub and ring gear installed, torqued down, ready to go, we're gonna move on to installing our smaller planetary. And what that's gonna require is us to take a small sun gear, this guy right here, the sun gear, they call it, you have planetary gears and you have sun gears. The planetary gears always go around the sun gear. This is our sun gear. It's gonna be installed into the bottom of this, and we're gonna set our smaller carrier on top of it. Don't forget this. I've learned the hard way. Do not forget this, because this is what your main axle shaft splines into. You can see the splines in here. If you forget this gear, you're gonna stick your axle shaft in it and your final drive isn't gonna move. Don't forget this piece, very crucial part. So we're gonna set our gear in here just like this. Now I've seen this done a bunch of different ways where you take a piece of wire, and what we're trying to do is line up the gears, these guys, with that sun gear. So what I've always done is we're gonna take our crane, we're gonna put our picking eyes in here. I need to get some smaller ones. We're gonna take our smaller picking eyes, 1, 2, lift this up, and we're going to install it here around the sun gear, and I'll show you how I do that. Up slow. Make sure we have a good pick. And then go south, slide this out of here. So as I was moving our smaller planetary, I noticed that the plates on the bottom were not installed yet. So we have our little plates here. These are what hold the pins into the main carrier housing. We're gonna put these bolts in, and I wanted to make sure, that's why I always read the directions, there's no washers that go on these bolts. They're just straight up into the plate. It does not ask for Loctite in the directions on how to assemble it. I'm gonna put a little bit of blue Loctite in there just for reassurance that these bolts are not gonna come out. Now we are gonna torque these, and I'm just gonna zip these down to save some time. A little tricky to do one-handed. Okay. Now we can go ahead and get our torque wrench out, and I'll get a little bit of help from Bomba. He'll hold this and we'll torque all these bolts to 40 foot-pounds. So we've got all of our plates bolted on. They are torqued. And you're gonna notice that the gears are gonna get a little bit stiffer, but they should still rotate fairly freely just because they're new bearings. Just want to make sure they all spin nice and easy. Yep. Good to go. So now all we have left to do is we're going to take this crane, swing our planetary over our sun gear. Let's get it lined up. It is a little tricky doing it one-handed, but we can do this. Okay. Watch your fingers. Always hold down flat. If you're ever going to be doing something like this, come straight down. Oops. And then we're hoping that this is gonna slide right over our, okay. So we're not lined up perfectly yet. So what we're gonna have to do is grab these two chains, and we're gonna rotate this and try and get that sun gear to line up with all four of these planetary gears. Tension here. Nice and easy. There it goes. So now we have our gears lined up, and we're gonna come down nice and easy, and you should see that line up. Just like that. No wire needed, it just takes a little bit of wiggling, and you can usually get that gear to line up. So our simple little final drive assembly video just got a little more interesting, and all I can say is we made a mistake, and we have to correct it. Take a look at this ring gear. So in the last clip you saw us assemble that small carrier and set it in here. Well, we were about to take the big carrier and put it in, and Robert noticed something, and it's gonna be kind of hard to catch. If you look right here, Might need to get a paint pen for you guys to see that. That ring gear's cracked. I made a mistake. Didn't catch it when we cleaned it. Needs a new one. So that could have been a complete disaster. Luckily, we have another set of final drives laying around. So we're gonna go ahead and rob a ring gear out of one of those other final drives. We've got it in the parts washer here. It just got done washing. We'll pull this thing out and take a look. So here's our other ring gear, and I'm just gonna go over this thing super careful because that's got me spooked. That's crazy. That final drive that we tore apart, it wasn't failed, but that is no good. That would have been a catastrophic failure and been totally my fault. So we're gonna go through this other ring gear here, tooth by tooth by tooth, and just take a real hard look at it and make sure that this thing doesn't have that same crack. I don't even care about redoing this work. That right there would have costed us a bunch of money and downtime and a pissed off customer that would never call us again. I am glad we caught that. That could have been really bad. So, I can see it now because I put paint on it. Looks like it ends right about there. Let me kind of wipe that off. Maybe it's easier for you guys to see. That ring gear's broke all the way through. Can't believe I did that. But at least it was caught and we can rectify the situation. That's going right in the scrap bin. So here's our fresh ring gear. Fresh used one, which if there's nothing wrong with it, it's perfectly good to reuse. It's got me spooked now, so I'm gonna go through every single notch on here and make 150% sure we have no cracks. So it'll take a little bit, but I'm gonna go through this one by one and make sure we have no splits in that gear. So I've gone over this new ring gear and reaction hub 20 times. I am 150% confident we have no cracks in this one. So I'm just gonna go redo all that work. I won't show that on camera just because you saw me install the other one, you know how it's done. We're gonna get this one in and then we can move on to our carriers. So we're back to step 4, or whatever step we were on initially. Ring gear 150% not cracked. I went through all the other gears one by one just to make sure no cracks. Looked at the hub super close, no cracks. Looked at the spindle super close, no cracks. I am 150% confident we're now good to go. That's a good catch. That'd been a costly mistake. And it's weird, was that final drive failed when you took it apart?
No, it was in the system. I think it was running takeout.
Was there any metal in it?
Not a like crazy amount, no.
Weird. Okay. Well, super good thing he caught that because that could have been disastrous. So we're gonna move ahead and get the big carrier in it now. So we're getting ready to install our big carrier. We have some O-rings we need to lay underneath of it before we install it onto the sprocket hub. we also have a little O-ring right here for your oil drain that needs to be installed. Make sure you don't forget that. Again, learn the hard way. So don't forget those O-rings. We're gonna use a green grease that holds the O-ring up just to get that installed, because you gotta install it upside down. So there's a special grease that we use that will lube up the O-ring, and it'll also make it stick to the top of this, or the bottom of this carrier. And this green grease is really tacky.
It's almost like a wax.
Yes. I'll help you hold it in here. It's always a little nerve-wracking when you put this thing in to make sure you got the O-ring in it, but it seems to work out. Just kind of push that grease up in there. It's gonna hold that O-ring. Keep spinning it. See, it fell a little bit here. Okay. And this will just squeeze out, and it will also get washed out when the oil goes to get inside of it. So you're gonna wanna make sure that you line up where this drain, you line it up with that O-ring. So we're lined up here. Gonna make sure that our O-ring is still in its groove.
We're gonna have to rock.
O-ring is good. Yeah, not a problem.
I can go with one. I'm already after.
Yep. Good. Hold that right there. So we can also spin. One of us is gonna need to spin the hub or take the line up bar and pull it over. So what's happened is we've got the gears lined up, but we still need to line the drain plug with that hole right there. Okay, come down, and we should be good. Golden. Now we've got brand new hardware, cat hardware that we're gonna use. All new washers, all new bolts. These are kind of a pain. Sometimes you gotta dig these out. So we're gonna dig out the ones that are old and stuck in there and install the new washers. So all of our bolts are lined up. We have new washers, new bolts. We put some Loctite on there. It doesn't specify in the rebuild guidelines what the torque spec is for these bolts. So we're gonna go to 350 foot-pounds. If you look right here, it just says install bolts 1 that hold the carrier in position. So it doesn't give you a torque spec on it. We looked it up. Our best judgment is 300 to 350 foot-pounds. So that's what we're gonna go to. So this is Big Tim. He's our 3/4 torque wrench. We got him set at 350 foot-pounds. We gotta go all the way around this ring gear. We're gonna mark it every step of the way and do a dual torque on it. So we're gonna go around torque it once, and then we're gonna go all the way around it again. And you're gonna see 2 torque marks on it when we're done. Get a nice, smooth pull. So we've gone around twice. All of our bolts are torqued. I made a slight correction. Our bolt torque was 325 foot-pounds. So brand new bolts, torqued to 325 foot-pounds, double checked. All we have left now is to install our cover with our O-ring and our little covers for our big pins on the big carrier. So we're getting this final drive wrapped up. We have our pin covers on, bolted down, Loctited. These ones we're not gonna Loctite because you take this one off often enough that it's just not worth putting Loctite on here. And we'll just zip this down and then we'll torque it. Okay, last thing to do is torque these 4 bolts. We're done. So there you have it, a completely rebuilt D10T final drive, a 110-2656. All of our bolts are torqued. It's ready to go to its new owner. Only a little mishap, and I am glad that we caught that crack because that could have been a catastrophic failure. That would have been completely my fault. That is gonna make me want to invest in a Magnafluxer. So basically a tool that can inspect for cracks. You spray it on and it will visually tell you if you have a piece of metal that has a crack in it. So I'm definitely gonna invest in one of those because that was too close of a call for me. The last thing I want is to rebuild a final drive like this and have it fail due to something that I didn't catch, which on this one, I am 150% sure that it is done correctly and is not gonna fail. It's gonna last way past its warranty period. Guys, I really appreciate you guys watching my videos. If you have any questions, throw it down in the comment section. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up. And consider subscribing to my channel if you like to see stuff like this. I'll see you in the next video.